The story of the going out of Egypt, of the exodus from Egypt, is not just a story of history. It tells us about our past, but also it tells us about our present and for our future. If we want to understand our relationship to internal exile and internal states of slavery and openness and freedom, we have to read the story of the going out of Egypt, from the story of the going out of Egypt until the process of where Klal Yisrael, the people of Israel, entered into the land of Israel. So let's talk about one type of enslavement. An enslavement means when a person is attached to something that they feel completely dependent on that thing. It could be a person, it could be an idea, it can be money, it can be power, whatever that object is. To the extent that a person feels that the entire equilibrium, their entire sense of self, is totally dependent on this object. So we'll talk about food, for example, and we'll see how there are 4 stages, the way the people of Israel, Klal Yisrael, related to food until they reached a perfect place of freedom when they entered into the land of Israel. So the first stage was when they were slaves in Egypt. Slaves in Egypt. What does it mean that they were slaves in Egypt? So physically they were slaves, but it means also that emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, and physically, they were in a state of constriction, a state of enslavement. After they leave Egypt, at some point in time, in the portions that we read in this Torah this week, they complain to Moshe, and they say something very peculiar. They say, we remember the food, the grain that we ate free. We remember when we ate free food in Egypt. They were punished and pained and enslaved and working day and night with no reprise. And what do they say when they remember Egypt? They say, we remember the food that we ate for free. So Rashi says, what does it mean that they ate for free? What does it mean for free? Nothing is for free in Egypt. They were slaves. So that's chinam and mitzvahs. Chinam and mitzvahs, they were free from mitzvahs, free from responsibility. What this means is, this is a type of involvement with food, because food is just an analogy, but just use food as an analogy. It's a type of involvement with the physical world, with the pleasure of this world, or with, let's say, food, where you're not living responsibly. You indulge in your taivas and your desires to the extent that it doesn't really matter what the outcome or how you're going to feel. Let's say a person eats because they love to eat ice cream. I don't know, this is an example. And they love ice cream. I don't know, they don't love ice cream, but they love the taste of ice cream. So they say, chinam, I'm going to do this with no responsibility and free from all types of constrictions. I'm going to totally indulge in this. This type of eating, this type of indulgence in food is complete attachment to this object in such an extent that it completely controls you. And the end result is that you actually feel sick. So this is a type of involvement with it, whether it's power, whether it's money, whether it's any type of physical things in our lives, that we completely become so obsessed with that thing that we say there's never enough of it. And we just take it and take it and take it more. That's the type of attachment and indulgence which is a level of slavery, where we become dependent of that. Okay, so Klal Yisrael, the people of Israel, have to leave this state. What are they told? This is, the first state is, another word for this would be the yesh hanivra, the physical, the yesh, the existence of creation, the existence of the material. This is the first level. So now they leave Egypt, and they're about to leave Egypt, and they're told they should eat matzah. What is matzah? Matzah is a very simple bread. Very simple. It doesn't rise, doesn't have any other texture, doesn't have any taste, no special ingredients. You're not adding honey or sugar, not adding thyme. Just a simple, unleavened flour and water. Very bland, very tasteless. The idea of eating matzah, and this they eat as they're leaving Egypt, as we're leaving Mitzrayim, this is the bread that we ate as we're leaving in Mitzrayim. As they're leaving Egypt, they're eating this bread, and they ate this bread for the next 30 days. This eating of this bread represents a state of ayin. Ayin means emptiness, nothingness. non-attachment. So they're going from a place where they feel totally attached, and we're using bread as food as an analogy, where they're totally attached to the food, so indulgent in this food that they feel completely enslaved to it. So this next step is like we're refraining from it. We don't care about food any longer. Proof is we just eat bland food. We just eat matzah, food that's tasteless. This is a non-attachment food. I'm just eating because I need to sustain myself. I eat bread and water. That's it. Doesn't matter how it tastes, what it tastes like. It doesn't really matter to me. That's the second stage, and that helps us break out of the first stage. When a person feels totally indulgent in something, totally dependent on this food or this person or this idea, that they feel so connected, they feel enslaved to it. The next step is going to the reverse, is to go the total opposite direction. I totally don't care. I'm totally non-attached. I don't care about any of that. That's the state of matzah, where they're eating unleavened, bland bread. After 30 days, they now receive the man. So on one level, the man is similar to matzah. By its very nature, it's white. It tastes sweet, but it's very, very one-dimensional taste. It's colorless. It's textureless. It has no special aroma. It's a very simple food. So it also represents ayin, nothingness, emptiness. But the matzah, the man, is actually a food that can taste like anything. Any type of food that a person desires that it should taste like, it tastes like that food. So if a person desires that it should taste like ice cream in this analogy, it tastes like ice cream. A person desired that the food should taste like meat, it tasted like meat. Which means that it was angel food, and it was the ayin of the yesh, hamiti. So there's the yesh hanivra. The yesh hanivra is the physicality, the existence of physicality. There's the ayin, the emptiness of that yesh. And then there's another ayin, which is the emptiness of the yesh hamiti, of the ultimate existence. The ayin of the yesh hamiti, of ultimate existence, is the ayin that's empty of all form, but also possibly contains all form. What is that relationship to food? It's beyond attachment. Beyond attachment means I can choose. It doesn't really matter. When you eat matzah on the second level, it's non-attachment. I'm specifically dafka eating food that doesn't have any taste, because I don't want to be indulgent in food and get sucked into the food, that I become enslaved to it. So I'm going to complete non-attachment. The third level is, it's not that I'm not attached to it, I'm beyond attachment. So therefore, I could eat it like this, and I could eat it like that. Doesn't matter. One day I decide it tastes like bland food, I'll taste like bland food. The next day I feel like it should taste like a better food, it can taste like a better food. So that's the third level. And that's what the people of Israel, Klal Yisrael, ate for the 40 years in the desert. Then they entered into Eretz Yisrael. They entered into Eretz Yisrael, into the land of Israel. This is what the Zohar calls, this is called Achilas Talmud Chacham, the eating of a Talmud Chacham, of a tzaddik. So there's the eating of a slave, there's the eating of a free person, there's the eating of angels, and then there's the eating of a tzaddik, a righteous person. That's the highest level eating. The tzaddik eats, tzaddik oichel l'soiv nafshay, tzaddik eats the satisfaction of his belly. So the Zohar says that tzaddik eats from a place of satisfaction. The tzaddik is already in a place of satisfaction. What does this mean? When they entered into Eretz Yisrael, they no longer ate matzah throughout the year. They no longer ate man, but the Svarim write that the food that they ate in Eretz Yisrael was the man translated into real time. Man in the desert was some abstract idea beyond attachment, beyond the physical world. Now they ate fruits, vegetables, whatever they ate, physical food in the land of Israel. They ate meat when they went into the land, and now the man idea was now translated into real food. This is the level of moichin, of intelligence. What this means is like this. What is this? This is like a reattachment to food. You go from stage 1, which is indulgence, step 2, which is non-attachment, step 3, which is beyond attachment, stage 4, which is holy reattachment. What does holy reattachment mean? It means like this. This is connected to the yesh amiti, to the ultimate source of creation, the ultimate existence. Very quickly, every single thing in this world has both the quality itself, the thing itself, and it has its chayas, has its life force, its animating force. You have, let's say, for example, in letters, and they're connected, the Chesed Avram connects them. Let's say, for example, in letters, you have Tanta, you have Taimim, Nekudos, Tagim, and Oisias. You have the Trup, which is the sound of the way you pronounce the words, the song of the words of the Torah. You have the vowels of the words of the Torah. You have the crowns of the Torah, and then you actually have the words themselves. The words themselves, you look at an aleph and a beis together, they have no meaning. You need to have a vowel. The vowel is the highest of the letters. That's what the Tikkun Zohar writes, that in comparison to the words, the vowels, which are normally circular imagery, versus the square boxed imagery of the letters, is the letters represents the thing itself, and the highest, the wheel that turns that word, that turns those letters into words and gives it animation, that's the nekudos. That's the vowels. What gives it even a deeper animation is not just to read the words, but how do you sing the words? The singing of the words actually gives it its full meaning, because you can say the exact same word, same few words, in the exact same pronunciation, but if you sing it differently, it can mean completely something else. You could say, that guy is a really good guy. The guy's a really good guy. The guy's a really good guy. They can mean completely different things. It can mean something positive, sarcastic, it can mean a question mark, it can mean actually an answer. So the song of something, the tam, is actually what the real chayas of something is found in its tam. The real chayas, the real life of letters is found in tamim. That's why the tamim, tamim, nekudim, tagim, and oisias corresponds also to the four spiritual realms, which corresponds to the four worlds that we're talking about now. The world of Asiya, physical reality, is the letters themselves. The Tagim is the world of Yitzira, the crowns. The Nekudos, which gives it a vowelation, the vowels, and it gives it sound, is the world of Bria, meaning. And then the Tam, the song of world of that, is the fourth level. That's the world of Atzilus, because that's what the real chayas of that letter, of that word, is in its song. Says the Baal Shem Tov, and it's brought down by the Magid, and brought by the son Mervama ben Magid, Rama Malach, and it's brought down by the Moranayim. It's many places that the tam of food is where you find the actual chayas. The taste of food is where you find the chayas in the food, the life force. If you, let's say, eating food. So the physical food itself, let's say whatever you're eating, let's say you're eating some salmon, a piece of salmon, or you're eating whatever you're eating this food. So the texture of the fish itself and the basic structure of the fish, that's in the world of Asiya, that's in the physical world. But the tam, where do you see the chayas of this? Where do you see the life force of this fish? Where do you see that? That's specifically in the taste. The taste is where you see the chayas. The chayas alaki that exists within every single object and every single subject, just like we say in letters and words. The chayas of something exists actually in its taste. That's what Rabbunim, a Pishcha, once said, that things that are bland are heavier. Foods that don't have taste makes you gain more weight. I'm not saying this is a physical level, but this is definitely a spiritual understanding. Because if the food doesn't have taste, that means there's a chesaron in the light, in the chayas, in the vibration, in the life force of that food. Because the more flavor something has, the more chayas it has. Because the chayas of something is recognized in its flavor. So let's get back to what we're saying about food. The highest level of connecting with food would not be to feel that everything is bland, like matzah. It would not be also to say, either way, it's like a chilas malachim, the food of angels. It could taste like this, it could taste like that, it could taste like nothing. It doesn't really matter to me. The highest level of achila would be to recognize, the highest level of eating would be to recognize that specifically in the delicious taste that you have in food, that's where the chayes aliki is. So to enjoy that, not just to enjoy the taste of food because it tastes good, because that's level one. That's where you're indulging and you're enslaved and you're completely dependent on it. But from a place of detachment and a place from non-attachment and beyond attachment, then to re-enter into this world, re-enter in the world of taste and taste the deliciousness of Tamu Uruki Tev Hashem. Come and taste and see how delicious is Hashem. how good is Hashem. The tam, the taste, is where we see the goodness and where we see the chayas, the life force within every object.